The previous basket is under review.
Hello, friends. Welcome to the Basket Under Review podcast. I am your host, Eamon Brennan of Buzzer at EamonBrennan.com. Also here at Basket Under Review, the best college basketball website on the planet. Back again with Tate Frazier, coming off, 15, 20 minutes after an epic Kansas-Arizona Monday night basketball game. You were on that show the first night of the season, right, with me and Will, where it was Arizona, Florida, and I came out hot just being like, thank God college basketball is back. Thank God we have actual games to watch. Thank God these players are so talented, blah, blah, blah. And we're back now all the way into the post-Super Bowl phase of the season in which people are like, oh, like my friends are like, oh, yeah, what's going on in college basketball? We're here. The games are amazing. The product on the floor is amazing. There's crazy stuff going on off the floor. We're going to talk about Arizona, Kansas to start. We'll talk about some of the other games tangentially a little bit from Monday night. We'll talk about the weekend stuff that bears mentioning. We're going to talk about St. John's, which is a combination of the two because they played an unbelievable game Friday night and then came back on Monday and nearly got knocked off by Xavier at home. We're going to talk about Charles Bediako not being eligible anymore after a Tuscaloosa County Court judge ruled against him and in favor of the NCAA. The NCAA actually won a case in court, which is a remarkable development.
Hang the banner.
The meme of Chris Paul hits a big three to cut the lead to 42 is relevant here. But it's a huge deal and an important thing to talk about. And we have as we've discussed in the past, a lot of thoughts about how this entire situation played out, and Alabama's role in it, and Nate's role in it. We're going to talk about all of that and all of the, Michigan State, Illinois. We got a big long list of stuff to get to. Before we do it, as ever, go to basketunderreview.com. $10 a month. Sign up. You get access to the entire website. Paywall content is available to you. It will make you much smarter about college basketball if you want to truly understand what you're seeing, X's and O's wise, metrics wise, whatever. It's all there on the site. You also get access to the Trilly Donovan Discord, where he breaks news and where, the genesis of Basket Under Review, sort of a huge community, 1,000 strong of people, subscribers, being a part of the community constantly 24/7 chatting about college basketball. You also support this podcast, which we do and put out for free, both on podcast feeds and on YouTube, and all the other great shows on the network, like Stats by Will and Jim, Scout Team, Weekend Under Review. Lots of good stuff for you to check out, support, and feed your college basketball addiction, particularly as we get in the stretch run here. So go to basketunderreview.com, $10 a month, sign up, and yeah, support us that way. Also support us by going to homefieldapparel.com, the literally greatest place in the world to acquire college athletics apparel. Home Field just launched, I think it was 4 or 5 days ago, a bunch of 70s era college basketball coaching jackets, which that's a thing you can buy. The Iowa State one is the one they led with, which is just a really great garment. I kind of want to buy it, but my wife might get mad at me if I continue to buy things from Home Field, but I may do it anyway. But Home Field has also been doing their Home Field house tour all year. They were at or outside the Garden on Friday night for UConn St. John's. They'll be where's the next place? It's on Valentine's Day. I have it semi-committed to memory. Let me pull it up. Kansas at Iowa State. So they'll be at Hilton on Valentine's Day.
Perfect timing.
This coming Saturday. So go check out Home Field's live experiences outside these games. Go check out homefieldapparel.com. Tell them we sent you. Thank you very much to Home Field for sponsoring our show. Okay. Intro over. Podcast beginning. Arizona, Kansas. Holy cow. I don't want to say it was the game of the year because I'm sure there's been others and I don't have them off the top of my head. But that was about as good of a visceral college basketball experience as we've had pretty much all season.
It felt like, to use the old trope, it felt like a Final Four game. And it's also still like a integration period as far as like these new conferences where even when I see Arizona at Kansas, I know it's a Big 12 matchup, but I still have to get to the point where it's like, yeah, that's regular for that to be happening. And then for, Kansas to have a number one team coming into that building, they have never beaten a number one team. They make history 40-0 on Big Monday, Bill Self. I mean, you keep going through all these ridiculous stats. Shout out to Norlander for pulling that stat, just about how they haven't been able to win or lose a game on a Monday night dating back to pre 9/11, which is just insane stuff. This is what Kansas does. This is great college basketball. And everybody keeps asking who won Super Bowl weekend. Yes, the Seahawks did win, but really it was college basketball. I mean, if you go across the board, Carolina Duke was amazing. You mentioned St. John's UConn on Friday. And then for this big money to deliver without Darren Peterson, even though that felt like a little bit of a damper, just good stuff all around for college basketball. So we're right for the, best time of the year. It's great.
Yeah, we'll get to Peterson because he is a continually interesting topic of conversation. But we should talk first and foremost about the guys who played for Kansas tonight and played incredibly well. And you see the first half and kind of how it's playing out, and you can see Arizona's superiority in some key ways, right? Like they are bigger along the front line. Krivas is particularly early in the game kind of unstoppable. Kansas's guys look a little small every time he touches the ball. And at halftime, Bill Self is talking about, we got to trap better. We got to, deny the post better, like little, kind of basic but technical things to turn things around. And the whole time I'm sitting there thinking he will probably do all that stuff, and Kansas will do all of the things that they normally do to, remove opponent advantages and like make the game more even and more on their terms or whatever. But the entire time I'm sitting there thinking like they're going to win the game because they're playing at home on a Monday night. Mm-hmm. And you alluded to it, like Matt Norlander had the stat earlier on Monday. They have not lost a game now for 61 straight games playing on a Monday night. 2001 is the last time they lost a game, and it was to Iowa State. Shout out Iowa State fans. I'm sure there'll be a little fist pump somewhere along the line. That was the last time they lost a Monday night game at Allen Fieldhouse, which is remarkable. And you can kind of, the crazy thing about it is, having watched this past 20 years of Kansas basketball, you kind of understand how the stat exists in that you've watched so many of these games. A lot of these teams play on Saturday, just like Kansas does. But then they turn around and they have to go to Allen Fieldhouse, right, on 48 hours, sometimes less than 48 hours, right, depending on the schedule. And you can understand why that would be overwhelming. And, at the end of the game, Bill Self went on Scott Van Pelt's show really quickly. He did like a, 3 or 4 minute interview with SVP. And, he was kind of pointing at the players who did well and talking about Melvin Council and how much he loves him and how popular he is and blah, blah, blah. And at the end of his comments, he was just like, this place won the game tonight, and did like one of these motions, like, pointing to the crowd. Allen Fieldhouse won the game tonight. And I don't want to lean too heavy into that because it almost kind of like it minimizes the effort and performance of the players who were on the floor. But just stepping back from it and looking at it like a high level view, it's one of the more predictable number one upsets in a long time, because it's just like you have to be perfect to win a game there. And whether that's occasional refereeing decisions that go against you, like the Flory Badunga obvious travel in the second half that ended up being a dunk, like one of the most blatant travels of all time, or whether that's just the crowd getting on top of you and you getting sped up the way Arizona did in the last 10 minutes of the game, where they just, all of the cool, calm, easy stuff they were getting early in the game just wasn't there anymore. And it was simultaneously an incredible performance from a Kansas team that, if you had told me 5 months ago, Darren Peterson's not going to play, Arizona's the number one team in the country, they're going to be a number one seed, they and Michigan are 1-2 or 2-1 for the best teams in the country, and Kansas is going to beat them without Darren Peterson and the rest of the roster, you'd be like, come on, dude. Like that, Melvin Council, Trey White, like Jamari McDowell. These are not guys coming into the season that you were like, this is going to be the core of a really good sans Darren Peterson Kansas backcourt. And yet it is. They are excellent, and they are, we'd have to look at the splits and the lineup stats, and I'll look that up probably shortly here, but you get the feeling sometimes that they're fine without Peterson if he's not there. They just will do their stuff, and they'll keep winning and playing, and it's an incredibly impressive thing. I truly cannot kind of believe where Kansas is at this point in the season. They're really, really good.
It almost has turned them into an underdog, even though they're a top dog when they have the number one pick, presumably the number one pick in Darren Peterson. So that's the kind of interesting part and the interesting wrinkle with this group. And like Bryson Tiller, we were talking before we got on the show, it's like Tiller kept them in this game, right? Arizona comes out. They show that they're the number one team in the country. You see, if you're a Kansas fan and you're in Allen Fieldhouse and you haven't watched any of their 23 games, you're like, oh, okay, I see why they're the number one team in the country and why they're undefeated. This team is really, really good, and they kind of check every single box. And the unselfishness of this group, the fact that they kind of play with this sort of patience around each other. And then you look at the talent of a Braden Burries, who I think has really turned into a real star for this team. And late in this game, Burries was the one that felt like it's been Bradley, right? I mean, Bradley's kind of been the go-to guy. UCLA game comes to mind, multiple games throughout the year trying to close out, especially in the Big 12. But for Braden Burries in this game to want the basketball, I thought that was encouraging late for Arizona. But you mentioned it. I mean, it was the backcourt was the question mark. Melvin Council did his magic as he's been able to do. Yes, it wasn't aesthetically pleasing at times. Yes, it wasn't necessarily analytically inclined, but it did work out in the end. I think he was, 6 for 25 at the end. Took a lot of shots, a lot of FGAs in this game, but did enough to make them, count. And then also when you had Tiller so great early on the front end, 14 points early in this game. And then you have Flory Badunga, who there was a video that Kansas put out like during the week. They went through all the guys, right? And it was some, social media member, shout out to them. But they asked like, do you want to win a game like with a shot or with the stop? And like, Darren Peterson's like with the shot. Melvin Council's like with the shot, right? Most of these guys give the answer with the shot. And Badunga is like with the stop. And he's like, that's what I do, And then in this game late, kind of perfectly, poetically almost, as you're in Allen Fieldhouse, you're kind of the underdog, not even kind of, you are the underdog in this game. Braden Burries has the ball getting downhill, feels like classic Arizona going to get to the rim and at least get fouled or get a bucket, and Flory Badunga comes over and makes an incredible block. A great seal by Krivas, met by a better play by Badunga, and that sort of matched up and kind of set the stage for what this night was, which is like good play by Arizona, great plays by Kansas, and for Kansas to win this game, incredible for them. Again, it's fun to watch Kansas as the underdog. It is weird when you have a top dog sitting on the bench. That's a whole nother story we'll get to in a second. But from a basketball standpoint, I thought Flory Badunga was the story of this game, and he did it defensively yet again.
Yeah, he was unbelievable. I mean, 23 points, 10 rebounds, 3 blocks. And
a great power dribble that was a travel traditionally,
it was like a microcosm of Flory Badunga from freshman year to sophomore year, from early in the game to late in the game. Because early in the game, he was getting bullied by Krivas,
right?
Like, bullied by him, just buried under the rim, easy, over the shoulder buckets for a guy way bigger than him, and the emphasis coming into the game, if you're Kansas, is like, okay, we're not as big. We're going to probably struggle on the boards a bit. The way we play and the guys we like, Bryson Tiller is going to get on box outs against Toby Awaka. That's not good for us. Like, we need to somehow figure out how to minimize those advantages for Arizona. And in the first half, they hung in despite those advantages being pretty obvious to the eye, right? You're sitting there watching like, again, we'll talk about it in a little bit. It was a little bit like the Duke UNC game. Like, you can see one team has all of this talent and all of these sort of tactical and technical advantages, and the other team is like getting through it and making big shots and doing what they need to do.
Just trying to hang on, trying to stay in the game.
Just hang in, stay in, and see what sort of juju you can conjure later in the game. And the fact that Badunga went from that to later in the game he was just the go-to option and they're just throwing him straight line lob passes around the rim was crazy. And it is the, like, his development sort of in a 40-minute time period that stretches from his freshman year until now. I also think, again, the thing Bill Self said about Melvin Council, which strikes me, having not, been in Allen Fieldhouse this year and having not been in a bunch of Kansas press conferences, that he's like as popular a player as they've had this year. Again, if you told me that in November, I would think you were like having a psychotic break. You know what I mean? Because we talked about Melvin Council numerous times this year of just like early in the season, watching him play, just sped up. Like, he's obviously faster than everybody else on the floor, can get past anybody on the floor, particularly in the open court. Like, he just runs at the rim. And that's a nice skill to have. But there were so many times early in the year where he sort of looked like his St. Bonaventure self, where it's just like, going to take shots, going to run at the rim. Who knows what's going to happen? And we'll go from there. And, he has developed into, at Kansas, like a guy who, obviously tonight he was not super efficient, but playing at a much higher level, taking a ton of possessions. He is like a totally viable ball handler for them. His assist rate is high. His turnover rate is pretty low. He has, he takes 26% of their shots when he's on the floor, which is crazy to me, but like, it's working. And he didn't, with the exception of missed shots, he didn't really do like anything, where you like slap your forehead and like, Melvin, come on, man. Like, what are you doing? Which I feel like early in the year was a common occurrence, to the point where I was like, if I, as a totally neutral, have no opinions on Kansas basketball other than, my grandfather was from Kansas and he liked the Jayhawks a little bit, whatever, was just like, if I was a Kansas fan, this guy would drive me insane. And now Bill Self is talking about like, he is the most popular guy in the gym. Everyone absolutely loves Melvin Council. And I think that also speaks to the development of this team and the overall, like, this guy plays a ton of minutes. He's always available. Again, no
gives
shade.
110%, like you said. It's like he almost gives too much, where there's sometimes you're like, you got to reel him back in. Like, he's almost too frenetic, You're like, all right, Melvin, we don't need that right now.
Deep
but
breaths.
He's done a little bit better at regulation, I feel like.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, he, again, he's putting up numbers that are better than what he put up last year at St. Bonaventure. There's a different level of, they're not like insanely better, but they're about where they were last year at St. Bonaventure. But he's playing in the Big 12 for Kansas, and he's taking a ton of shots, ton of possessions, and he's doing it at a level that is working for the Jayhawks. And yeah, I mean, like, him, Tiller, Trey White, like, even again, McDowell, another guy early in the year. There was a three that McDowell made. I think it was in the first half, where Council drove, kind of like got stopped, but came to a jump stop on the baseline, flipped one out to McDowell. McDowell hits a corner three. These are McDowell, especially early in the year. I was like, this guy, come on, like, he was playing minutes. I don't even remember what game it was. It was a game they lost, I think, or came close to losing, like in November. And I just remember thinking, like, come on, dude, like, this is not a Kansas Scar. You know what I mean? Like, he's fine, but he's not like, this is not the level that you come to expect from a Bill Self-coached team. And you look at him now, he's just like right in the right spots, always hitting threes, making good decisions, making good plays. And I think a lot of this, obviously, you have to credit to Bill Self, who the past couple of seasons were not his best. And he had the health scare, like we've talked about all of this stuff already. He had the health stuff in the offseason. And you come into this season looking at the roster, and it's like, oh, Darren Peterson is going to really have to be like the best player in the country, huh? And it's like, actually, no. Like, the rest of these guys are a core of a team that works really, really well, whether or not he's available. And they don't know whether he's going to be available on any given night. And it's where they are is remarkable whether they had him from the beginning of the season or not. Like it's an all-time self-coaching job. And there's been a lot of those.
Yeah, he's coaching with 6 guys. I mean, El Marco Jackson is the 6th man of this team, and El Marco had a pivotal moment late in that game where, basically Council's trying to get the ball on that possession, and it's just like trying to score immediately. And El Marco waves him off the ball and is like, let me just pass it around here for a second, let you kind of get a little bit of energy out. Then we'll get you the ball back later in the shot clock. It was like 8 seconds on the shot clock when he gets the ball back. He drives, takes a little floater. They get the lead by 6, and it's like, okay, that was the perfect possession where it was like El Marco was smart enough to be like, all right, if Melvin gets his ball right now, he's going to go too quick. Let's give it a beat, and then we'll get going. It's like those 6 guys actually have turned into a nice group. I mean, Rosario played 5 minutes. He was starting at the beginning of the year, but he's completely been kind of phased out. He's a nice reserve piece for them. But without, Darren Peterson, there are 6 guys that can play. And usually, as we know in the tournament, 7 guys is traditionally what you think. If you're Pat Kelsey, you're going to stick with 11 and then, see if it works. Sometimes it does, and you blow teams out. Sometimes not so much. Should we talk about Peterson, though? Because I do think, like, that is sort of the awkward conversation that we have to have, like, with this team, because it's flu again. This is the 3rd time, and fooled me once. I'm like 3 times. I don't know what this. I don't know if I'm being fooled or if this is just a happenstance, coincidence, unfortunate circumstance. I mean, I don't know where you want to peg it. I don't know how deep we need to get in conspiracy. I'm not really about that at this point, but I just feel like this team is so fun, and that is like a cloud that you almost don't want to ruin the sunshine of what's happening with these 6 guys because they're all playing so well together.
Yeah. So look, here's what I'll say about it. For starters, I have been sick many times in my life. I'm a 40-year-old man. Okay. I've had the man flu many a time. My wife makes fun of me for how much of a baby I act, like the cliche. Like, but
we've all been there. Yeah.
When I'm sick, and I need to be in bed. I'm sorry, I can't help you make breakfast. I'm just down for the count.
And your mom or your girlfriend or your wife or whoever you're around is like, I feel that every day, and I get through it. Look how much I do, and you're like, you feel this every day.
I carried 3 of your children in pregnancy. It's like, all right, yeah, like, whatever.
Go to the
feel
pain
sick,
Olympics.
So I'm sick, so leave me alone. But no, I mean, like, I just, I want to be careful how I word this, because again, I don't really know, right? Like, we don't really know.
Nobody knows. That's the thing. Like, I mean, you ask people, you get different answers. Like, that's the problem.
Yeah.
Even Bill Self gives different answers. Like when he practiced, when he didn't, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, he does. And even tonight, I think after the game, he's like, oh yeah, we thought we would have him, but we did, about an hour before the game, he wasn't available. Like he was feeling sick or whatever. And I just don't know how you get to the arena and you're dressed and ready to play and you're warming up, and then all of a sudden you feel like you have flu-like symptoms. And it's odd, right? Like it just is. And if he had if he had these, like you said, 3 absences due to being ill for whatever reason, be like, oh, maybe he's got COVID or long COVID or whatever, like whatever. Maybe he's got some issue, but he, when he's healthy and available to play, he's playing 30, 32, 33, 35 minutes a night. Right. And we had that there was let's see. No, not really. I mean, okay. So since this turn of the year, because he basically didn't play non-conference except for 4 games. Turn of the year, January 3rd against UCF, 23 minutes. TCU, January 6th, 32 minutes. 31 West Virginia, 27 Iowa State, 23 Baylor, 31 Colorado. Okay, so like that's a stretch, right? Where like there were times when he came out of the game a little earlier, a couple 23-minute nights in there, right? But that's 6 games in a row where he's playing well.
And this is coming on the heels of a lot of people questioning what was going on, right? It was like a lot of questions going into the new year, and then he rips off 6 straight games where he plays, and it's like, okay, this has all been quelled, right? I mean, that's how it felt at the time.
Even though there were a couple games in there where it's like 23 minutes tonight, okay.
Mm-hmm.
But still, yeah, like he, played 6 games in a row, reasonable minutes. Didn't play against Kansas State away. Kansas won by 24 anyway. Things are not going well at Kansas State right now. BYU played 20 minutes. We went over that. The Texas Tech game, he played 35 and hit the 2 key shots down the stretch to literally win them a game that they probably should have lost at Texas Tech, right?
Again, on the heels of a lot of people questioning what's happening here, he plays 35 minutes, the most he's played, and hits 2 heroic shots, and it's like quelled again. You know what I mean?
Then played 33 played 33 at home against Utah.
Mm-hmm.
14 points, 4 of 7 from 2, 1 of 5 from 3. Like just, an okay game for him by his standards. Whatever. Kansas won by 71-59. Anyway. And then you have tonight, and it's funny because you feel like if there's a game you want to strive to be available for, it's tonight, right? Or Monday night, people listening to this Tuesday morning. But it's the Arizona game. Like, they're the number 1 team in the country. They have 2 insane freshmen, a little bit like the BYU game of just like, this is the you and DeBonsa game. This is a big deal. Like, it's the kind of the showcase at the AAU, like Peach Jam or whatever, of like, oh, you're going up against another, like the number 2 guy or the number 5 guy or whatever. This is the time for you to play. And so it's hard to like cast aspersions, not knowing what's going on. But the bottom line is, if you are in any sport, in any coach, whatever, the best ability is availability. And it's different in college because there's much more money to be made next year. We all get it, right? Even though there's a lot of money to be made in college basketball, and Charles Bediako tried to get a slice of it, and unsuccessfully. We'll talk about that in a minute. But like, if you're going to be here, then just do it,
Yeah.
And if you're really sick, then stay home. Don't get other people sick. That's that. I mean, again, like, as a grown man working in workplaces, people don't want you to come to work if you're sick. If you're actually sick, stay home, because you don't want to get other people sick. The last thing Kansas needs, the last thing Bill Self needs, or any of his assistants or any of the players on the team, is if you're sick with the flu or the cold or COVID, whatever you have, then just stay home. Get well. We'll see you, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday for
also
around,
you
whatever.
usually get a little bit of color when someone is really sick. Like, hey man, he came in, he looked awful. You know what I mean? Like he's coughing everywhere, or like he was throwing up in the bathroom. Like, there's no way we could get him on the court. Like, the fact that it was told to us like it was like a question that was asked and a decision was made. Again, it goes back to
couldn't go tonight. That was the
right.
statement from Kansas's press person was, let me find it. Peterson flu-like symptoms in the warm-up. Darren won't play tonight. He has flu-like symptoms. He went out with the team for warm-ups but can't go.
Right.
Like, come on, man. And again, we talked about this either last week or the week before, but like, man, I just want to watch this guy play college basketball.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost not even a value judgment at this point. I'm just like annoyed that I can't watch this guy play college basketball. It's not like, I'm betting on Kansas because I think Darren Peterson's going to play, like, whatever. Like, that's not what it is. It's just, can I watch this guy in his 1 year of college basketball, which he is probably being relatively handsomely paid for, knowing Kansas and knowing like where the NIL stuff is at right now. Like, if DeBonsa got $7 million from BYU, Peterson's number is probably not that much lower than that, right? Like,
it's 7 figures for sure.
Can we play a little bit more often? I don't think it's crazy to ask, right?
It also just takes this team from like fun Sweet 16, Elite 8 cap to an actual title contender. And like we
Yeah.
saw that against Texas Tech. Like that's the other part of this where it's like so frustrating, I'm sure, for Kansas fans and for everybody that's on that, staff and in the program and everything. It's just like we have the piece sitting right here that can really take us to the next echelon of college basketball and to make us a true contender. We just beat the one team that was undefeated, that's number one in the country, and we did it without him. Imagine if we had him. My goodness.
And they have a baseline of all these
right.
guys who are like playing hard and playing for each other and are super connected and like incredibly well drilled, and they run good stuff, and
with no animus for him when he returns, by the way. Like he takes shots away from Melvin Council, and Council's like setting him up to get more you know what I mean? It's like
Council's like,
it's perfect.
Go for it, buddy.
Yeah, it's like your time.
Very self-aware. Like it doesn't seem to be any animosity whatsoever. It's just like, okay, cool, man, like go for it. Like we'll see. I mean, we'll see how it goes. Like Kansas is now approaching with the way they're playing and how they played tonight. And, they are now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 8 wins in a row, like pushing at the top of the Big 12 with some heavy hitters like Arizona, like Houston. Bill Self is coaching the, absolute, earmuffs for anyone listening to this podcast with their kids in the car, the absolute shit out of this team.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And then you can, in theory, sprinkle Peterson on top and like get all of the benefit, and look, like I just looked it up on Evan Mia's website, Evan Miyakawa. Their best lineup is still the one with him in it. They don't have a ton of, their top lineup ranks somewhere in like the 20s overall in college basketball. And it's Badunga, Council, Peterson, Tiller, White. Right, in terms of overall offense and defensive efficiency. Their second ranked lineup is all the way down towards the 40s-ish range, and that's Badunga, Council, El Marco, McDowell, and Trey White. So like this is not like a Florida team that has two of the top 6 lineups in the country on Evan's site, because they just batter people in the front court, and the guards are kind of like tangential to that. Like there's a chance for them to take what they're already doing up to another level. And it would just be, tonight, it's wild that we're coming off an unbelievable Kansas performance, another Allen Fieldhouse classic, and just being like, yeah, but imagine if this team had Darren Peterson playing too. And that's just where we are.
But the fact that we're here means he'll come back. You know what I mean? Like it does feel like it has like this weird.
You've detected the pattern.
Yeah, it's like as soon as everyone that's like talking about it is talking about it in the wrong way, it's like all of a sudden here he is. So like it is that to me is why it's a little bit strange. I mean, it's a lot of bit strange at this point, but he is so talented. He is so gifted. We all want to see him play. I think it all comes from a good place. I don't want to put anything on Darren Peterson, but again, when you're this type of player and you're this type of talent, you have there's a lot of influence all around you and a lot of decisions that are being made that sometimes probably feel a little bit out of your hands. And Bill Self definitely feels like this whole thing is out of his hands. Did you see how much joy he had tonight? Like when they won that game, like, I mean, it's like, it's almost like it adds even little like more to it for him to be able to do it without Peterson. So it's just a fascinating, like, I would love to read the book. If this team does go on a run and they write the book about the season, like, I need the in-house Kansas staff to write the book, the media staff there, about like what was happening, because it is so interesting that like the team themselves seems to still love Peterson. So like it doesn't seem like it's like a Peterson personal problem. You know what I mean? Like it's not like he's an a-hole or whatever it is. It's like obviously
he's a cipher. That's the thing about him. He's like
right.
the most Kawhi. He's like the most Kawhi Leonard dude, like prospect wise, that we've ever had. He doesn't say anything. He doesn't emote during games ever.
Yep.
Like he is the most blank slate. He just plays and is phenomenal when he plays. And then when he doesn't play, he just sits there and makes no gestures whatsoever. Like I compare it to like last year at the Final Four.
Sits in his
like
seat by himself, like the little stool by himself. Yeah.
He's just on his stool and like he's like,
it is kind of Kawhi on the Raptors. Yeah, that is kind of
it
like
is.
The vibe
Like
he
there's no emotion whatsoever that is detectable. Whatever is happening under the surface. Maybe this is like something NBA scouts will be like, yes, love that. Like that's exactly what we want. But, like compare it to like a guy like who's like, 8 years older than him, like Chad Baker Mazara last year at the Final Four, got subbed out like in the first half and threw a temper tantrum on the bench and was like sitting there cackling when one of his teammates missed a shot because he thought he should have been in the game. Like Peterson doesn't do any of that either. And maybe that's part of the reason why his teammates are still all in. Like there's no like emotional up and down. There's no social media posts. There's none of that stuff. And that is part of the reason why it feels so speculative. If he was, if he had a Twitter account, like, I don't even know a good college basketball example of this, where he was just like, hey, y'all, sorry, I can't, couldn't go tonight, had this, blah, blah, blah. It would either help or make it worse. I'm not really sure. But the fact that he's such a blank slate and it is totally unreadable, both on and off the floor, kind of adds to the, like, what is going on here element to it. And it's just a weird deal. And, again, just from a purely selfish college basketball perspective, cannot say this enough. Just want to watch the dude play.
Right.
And I'll watch him in the NBA. I watch the NBA. I'm not one of these college basketball fans who doesn't watch the NBA. Watch all basketball when it's available to me. Oh, there was another fight in the NBA tonight, by the way.
Nas Reed.
2 fights. Yeah. Wow. Anyway, sorry.
And my guy, Muhammad Gay, Wazoo legend.
Yeah. You can't, I mean, what happened tonight? People are getting scratched. People are getting punched.
It's a weird day. I feel like there's a lot of confrontation. Like even on my street, there's an argument. My neighbors had an argument today out on the street about trash cans. I was like, I feel like a lot of people are contentious today. I don't know what's going on. We got to figure that out.
Full moon. There's all the weird vibes in the air. There's February. All sorts of stuff going on.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's the Kansas discussion. Unbelievable win. And like, again, to go back to the start of it, just one of the better games of the season all around. Atmosphere, environment, performance, Arizona being incredible, and then succumbing to the juju of Allen Fieldhouse.
They had to lose, you know what I mean? And if there's one game that you can lose, is that Allen Fieldhouse on a Monday night. Like everybody kind of understands that. So, 100%. Not a bad loss at the end of the day.
100%. Okay, so next topic is the really remarkable fact that the NCAA won a case in court, defeated the Charles Bediako menace that has plagued college basketball. And I say that jokingly because I feel like Charles Bediako, particularly after the Auburn game, I just started to feel bad for him.
Seems like a really nice guy, by the way. Yeah.
Seems like a nice kid. Nice guy, I guess, kid, guy, whatever, however you want to draw those distinctions. This is like our baby versus toddler discussion with the Ed Cooley water bottle throw. What qualifies as what, but he's a grown adult man that, with counsel and probably Nate Oates' urging, decided to try to come back to college basketball, got a temporary injunction from a Tuscaloosa judge that turned out to be a donor to Alabama. To play, has played 5 games, has played fine, has been Charles Bediako, the same Charles Bediako you probably remember from 2023. And as of Monday evening, is no longer allowed to play in college basketball games because a Tuscaloosa county judge, I'm not sure if it's the same court as the previous ruling, ruled him ineligible to play for Alabama anymore, said that he did not have a reasonable expectation he would be allowed to return to college basketball because no other player had been granted eligibility under these circumstances. Said that essentially the judge very politely and in legalese said that everything Alabama has been saying about this is wrong. Everything Nate Oates has been saying, equating every European player to a guy who knowingly gave up his eligibility, entered the NBA draft, and now is trying to reverse the process and come back to college basketball, that this is meaningfully different. And it is a relief in some ways, because if it did feel like if this one was like, well, no, you can't tell him what to do in the way that so many of these NCAA cases have gone over the past 5 years, then you don't have a rule set anymore. And the thing that has really grated about it has been Nate Oates in Alabama refuted by SEC Commissioner Greg Sankey a couple days ago, by the way, who filed
That
an
was
affidavit
huge
in the same
for,
court.
yeah.
Absolutely massive. Even if the judge just ignored it and didn't read it, or was like, "Who's Greg Sankey?" which is hard to imagine, but who knows? Like, just was evaluating on the legal merits. In the court of public opinion, the fact that the SEC commissioner came out and was like, "No, I actually don't support a thing Alabama's doing," was massive. But essentially the ruling was no, like the European guys aren't the same, and the rules are, whether you agree with them or not, have been consistently enforced in this regard. And there's no like harm here. You're trying to get a new rule imposed upon the NCAA, even though it has demonstrated that it consistently enforces the rules that it does have. And this is a big deal because, again, like I said, you don't have a rule set if you can't enforce a simple thing like a guy was in college basketball, entered the NBA draft, stayed in, and then decides to come back. Then it's just like the floodgates are open. And hey, shout out the NCAA. They got one.
Yeah, finally. This is, I mean, like they don't win many of these, and you saw all of the powers that be in the NCAA. Charlie Baker was like common sense finally comes and prevails for once for us, and you do feel bad for Bediako because again he's the kind of poster child of this whole, or poster guy of this whole situation. You know what I mean? And that's the unfortunate part for him. But again, it's one of those things where it's like in an Alabama interpretation of the rule, which the rule, again, under their interpretation, these European guys are draft eligible and they're still, draft eligible and they're playing college basketball in the same way that Bediako is, yada, yada, yada. That's sort of their idea. And they were trying to take an interpretation, set a precedent, and then from that precedent, basically break the bounds of the sport as we know it currently, right? I mean, that's, to put it in layman terms for the people that are listening, that was the general conceit. Now, I wouldn't say that Nate Oates would say he was a part of that diabolical of an idea, but that's what the reality was. Like, if this gets approved and it happens, other people are going to follow this blueprint and the precedent will be set and the rest is history. And, we'd be talking about this until, the sport is completely different and we're basically competing with the NBA and the G League doesn't exist. Like that was where it was trending and we still might be trending to that place at some point. But Bediako, I feel bad for him in the sense that, again, he's just like a weird pioneer that is kind of been used and now I would say like abused in this situation with the way he's been treated, and the fact that now he's just like, I'm hopefully getting paid for the rest of his time there for the rest of the season. Maybe there was a world in which,
so.
Yeah, let's hope so. I mean, there's
whatever
a
NIL was promised
cut
to get him to come back from the G League, I hope will be honored. Like if that like that's the bare minimum. Especially for all the talk that Nate Oates has done about like, oh, we're here to support Charles. Like it's really,
but is that a
Charles.
guarantee? Like, I don't know if that's a guarantee just based on how, these things have been operated. And, I think Nate Oates is someone that's always trying to find the edge. And like at a certain level, you have to respect that. But I do feel like sometimes it's like kind of the people that are like in the hot take world. It's like you get so inundated by hot takes at some point, like you kind of lose the plot and you're just saying like insane things. And I do feel like he's so obsessed with like finding the edge and the way to like gain some sort of leverage on the game that like this led him down a dark path. Like I think Najee broke him and it led him here. And I'm hoping that like now that this has been sensibly handled, like Nate Oates will come back and return to form a little bit because Nate Oates is too good of a coach to get this lost in the sauce. So like that's my goal too. I feel like this decision hopefully will lend us to a more sensible version of Nate Oates too, because I feel like Nate is too good of a coach to be so far down this rabbit hole. And he just kept digging even, and he needed to stop.
He's still digging.
Point. Yeah,
he was digging. He continued. After the settlement. Look, like I don't expect Nate Oates or Greg Byrne or whomever at Alabama to come out and be like, "Hey, look, it was worth a shot. It didn't work out. We get it. On to the next." Like I don't totally expect that, but at the same time, like
that would be appreciated, right? Like,
it'd be great.
That would actually be better if they just.
No, it'd be better for sure. That'd be great if it did. I don't expect it to be clear, but it would be fantastic if that's what happened. what Nate Oates said on his radio show after the injunction was denied on Monday night. Obviously super disappointed in the whole thing, to be honest with you. I didn't think it should ever have gotten to court. I thought the NCAA should have made him eligible based on over 100 current college basketball players, former professionals, most of them over in Europe, some of the G League, guys being drafted, rights owned by NBA teams, as in James Najee being eligible to play. He got a bee up his bonnet about the Najee thing. I thought it was kind of a no-brainer with the NCAA. Then I didn't think it would be much of an issue. The NCAA hasn't really changed much without courts forcing them to change. I thought the courts would see in the inconsistencies in the rulings and agree with Charles's attorneys. Continued. To me, the NCAA's point of why Charles shouldn't be eligible was all these rules that they have, but they're not applying these rules to all these other players they've made eligible. Disappointed in the ruling, disappointed in the system, both the NCAA, the courts, the whole thing, just with all the inconsistencies with who's eligible and who's not. It just seems like the European international players are being given preferential treatment over the Americans. Charles Bediako is Canadian, by the way, just for clarity's sake. It more so part of our North American family as Bad Bunny.
Yeah,
our American
I like
family.
Everybody's most inclusive thing I've ever seen. I was like,
when he shouted out Canada, the Canadians anyway, continue it. It just seems like the European international players are being given preferential treatment over the Americans. It more so happened today. Hopefully, at some point, somebody is going to win a ruling like this. It wasn't today. At some point, someone will win one and change the system, because that's how it has to get changed in the NCAA. They don't make changes on their own, typically. All right.
So he's doubling down, is what it sounds like. Yeah.
I mean, he's quadrupling down.
Yeah.
It's embarrassing now.
He's digging.
Like, this is actually embarrassing.
He's still digging.
All right, it's been embarrassing because Nate Oates knows well. Nate Oates is not a dumb guy. Okay.
He's he's the opposite. He's a really smart guy. That's the problem.
He's a very smart man, okay, and a good basketball coach. He knows how the European system works. He knows very well that the guys who come over from Europe, by and large, and maybe there are exceptions out there somewhere, I don't know of many that have been paid anything like even G League money. I'm sure there are some. Have come over from a system where you cannot be an amateur basketball player if you're any good. There's no college system there. It's not how it works. You get put in a club the same way as European soccer. If you're good from the age of like 10, you're in a club. And the club, until you're 16, they do your academic costs and whatever. And then from 16 on, you get paid a smallish salary. The reason all these European guys come over is because the money's better over here. It's not because they just decided to come to the USA to play basketball. This is like a new phenomenon since the NIL thing. That's number one. Like, number two is drawing the false equivalence with all of this and constantly pointing to like, well, there's all these European guys who are pros. Why can't Charles? Like, he has intentionally muddied the waters throughout this entire dispute in the way that, like, and I'm not on one side or the other of the discussion or the spectrum, but in the way that like politicians do, where it's just like, okay, here's my in. I can, and not even politicians, like influencers and like people who are not arguing in good faith, pick a point. What about it to death? And that's how we will proceed. We're going to keep hammering this home.
This is his Super Bowl halftime show. Yeah, he's created the other line, and he's like, domestically, we should be taking care of our guys. Who are all these, people from other countries coming here and all this sort of, like, he's created that sort of level of like domestic versus European situation.
I'm looking out for the Americans,
right,
on behalf of Charles Bediako, who's,
Canadian.
All are welcome in my country as far as I'm concerned, but he's not an American. But like, it's just this like, but what about all this? What about all this? What about all this? Why can't we do it? And it's just like, dude, like, there are the rules of the rule, like, and you knew what the rule was, and the NCAA told you no, and then you sued to get it changed, and acting like you're some freedom fighter about it is just bizarre. And it's over Charles Bediako, who gives you like a, what? if you're talking about wins above replacement, like 1.5 over the course of a college basketball season, he's solid center. He does all the stuff Alabama wants to do from that position in terms of rim running and rim protection, whatever. But we're not talking about Darren Peterson here or DeBonsa or Cooper Flagg or like whatever. And so the whole thing has just been like, yeah, well, I want Charles Bediako to play on my team. And so I'm just going to say whatever I think I need to say to make that happen. And it's just been, honestly, for a coach that I admire like tactically and think he's a smart person, kind of embarrassing. Not even kind of. Super embarrassing.
Yeah, it's gone too far. And I'll say this, like, I don't want to get too deep in the corner, but I do feel like there's a sadistic side of me that thinks that he wants to get Bediako approved because he has another player in mind that is more impactful. You know what I'm saying? Like, I wouldn't be shocked if like this is a way.
Luka?
I mean, it could be someone that already played for him. That's it, like JD Davidson or something. Like, who knows what it is? But like, there could be someone that's out there that is like more of a player that he wants for next year's team. That he's like, if I get the Bediako thing done and that sets the precedent, then and that would now I'm in the weed. Now I'm in the rabbit hole. I want to get out of it, but I'm just saying, like, that to me feels like, why would you care this much about the Bediako thing of it all? And yes, you can do the moral thing of like, I want this kid to do well. You know what Bediako should do? And we were talking about this off the air. I mean, get paid, go to school, get your degree, like use these resources that are in front of you, and then like go back to being a pro basketball player if you so choose. You know what I mean? But like, make sure you get something out of this too, because otherwise you're actually getting mistreated. That's the real take on the whole thing.
No, and again, I do want to go back to that because, you know, going back to the very beginning of this, I remember seeing a tweet that was like, you know, just because Nate Oates can play him doesn't mean he should. And I hope he takes a stand or whatever after Bediako got, you know, the original restraining order. And it was just like, do you think Nate Oates didn't know he was coming to the practice facility? Like, he just showed up one day and was like, Coach, I'm eligible. Like, the court said I'm eligible. Can I play? And Nate Oates was like, well, who am I to say that you can't?
Yeah, it's like, kid, you remind me of Charles Bediako.
Hey, what a guy. What Charles, welcome back. Like, no, of course, like, this has been led by his agent and lawyers and by Nate Oates. And Nate Oates has been out in front saying that, of just like, he saw the James Najee thing and thought, hey, why can't, you know, Bediako was sitting next to him during the draft. Why can't I do that? And it's like, well, because Najee never played college basketball. And that's a crucial distinction. Even if the rules are confusing to people, like it is a crucial distinction. And the problem is now that Bediako has come back to college basketball, played 5 games, gotten screamed at that he's a G League dropout for all 5 of them, and now has to figure out what to do. And you're right. Like, he should stay at Alabama. He should get a degree. He should take whatever NIL money and make sure that they pay him like his entire, whatever he was promised to come back. And then he should, you know, pursue a professional career in either the G League or Europe or wherever. But I do feel bad for him because, you know, taking this step to be like, I'm going to challenge every NCAA rule, I'm the new Maurice Claret or whatever, is just like, I don't, you know, that doesn't seem like he was sitting around in his, you know, G League apartment and decided to do this one day. And I feel bad for him that he's gotten to become the face of, like, you know, Nate Oates' weird crusade to get this one guy eligible for some weird reason.
And think about Scott Drew, like how happy he is that Nate Oates did this, you know? Like, Scott Drew,
oh God,
like this took everything away from Scott Drew, by the way. So like he needs to send him like a thank you card or something. You know, I know that he obviously broke Nate Oates' brain a little bit, but maybe a nice little thank you note. Like, thanks for taking the heat off me. I'm good now.
I rage baited you. Is that what the kids say?
Exactly. It was like he hit first, and then Nate Oates hit him back, and then Nate Oates got suspended from school. You know, it's like that's exactly what's happened here.
And that was the thing that was crazy, is like when the Najee stuff happened, everyone was like, "Whoa, wait, what? Like, this seems weird." And then you actually step back and look at it, and it's like, well, you know, like, technically he's eligible because the NCAA approved him, and like he fits within the rules, even though it feels really weird to everyone who's a college basketball fan, right? And that was the thing about Bediako that was different, is like, no, this isn't an NCAA rule. They went around the NCAA, like they tried to do the NCAA process. NCAA denied him, being like, no, what are you talking about? He went to the draft. Like, no, of course he's not eligible. And then you got an injunction or a restraining order from a judge to force him to play for 5 games. It's going to be interesting to see, I think the committee, in terms of like selecting and seeding Alabama, I've got asked a lot about this in the past few hours. I feel like it kind of doesn't matter, because number one, they'll treat it like an injury for a guy who was coming back from injury, played 5 games, and then got hurt again. They're not going to make these games not count at all. But also they went 3-2. And so at the end of the day, like in the committee room, they're not going to be like, oh, this team was awesome with Charles Bediako and then not so good with whatever, without him. Sort of like, a less drastic version of the James Najee thing. With that guy just is not good at basketball, which again, I'll say it every week. Who drafted him 31st overall?
Yeah.
Is that GM still employed in the NBA?
I'm sure. Yeah. Or he's probably
this
not
guy
where
can't
he
get on the
was
floor
when he made the draft pick, but he probably is employed still. They just kind of like,
I mean, this guy cannot get on the
around.
floor for Baylor, and Baylor desperately needs anything they can to get in the NCAA tournament, and he can't get on the floor. Anyway, all right.
Baylor's
That's
so
the
bad
Bediako
that like
stuff.
Tunde Yesufu, like nobody even knows who he is. Like, and he's great.
No.
He's like another freshman in
He's
the
amazing.
group, you know what I mean? But like nobody even knows because they're so bad. Yeah.
No
Crazy.
clue. Yeah. The same scout will draft him, and he'll end up coming back and trying to challenge NCAA rules. No, I'm joking. Okay, so we do have to go back and talk about the past weekend, particularly Duke UNC.
Mm-hmm.
Also a very good game of basketball. Now, I will confess up front, I was at a 3rd grade father-daughter dance with my daughter at her school, and was monitoring from afar, right? Just like, oh yeah, go dance with your friends, whatever. I'll stand over here in the corner and
YouTube
and look
TV
at my phone.
Up, yeah.
yeah, just kind of quietly. And Duke was just kind of doing what I thought Duke was going to do, like steady. Obviously started the game really well. Steady. By the way, I've since rewatched it, so I have the full context. But Duke, like, oh yeah, Duke is just going to kind of like be 7 to 8 to 10 points up in this game, because the emotion of the game will keep it tight, and then they'll be superior as they are, right? And I do think, having rewatched it, the minus the emotion of the sort of comeback and the last shot and the Seth Trimble shot and all that stuff. Like, the Trimble shot is what's going to be on the ESPN hype reels for the next 20 years. Rightfully so, like, massive shot. But for me, this was like the Caleb Wilson game of Caleb Wilson games. And particularly in the first half, when things could have got real bad early, he had, Duke led 18-5, and he made that crazy fadeaway on the baseline that kind of got the crowd back into like a mode of like, oh, this can happen. And then got a stop on the other end, post it again, step through to
Malik Brown, by the way. Yeah, who's the best defender on the floor. Yeah.
Yeah, of all people. Cut the lead to 9. At like the 11-minute mark, they were down 22-11, hit a 3 a few minutes later, 22-19. Like, the game could have gotten out of hand early, and the Dean Dome could have gotten into like, oh my God, we are on a different level to these guys, and Hubert is not up to it, and blah, 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 blah. Like, it could have devolved really quickly. And Caleb Wilson kind of single-handedly kept the game alive to the point where you can get, like the Kansas-Arizona game that we just watched, into the juju of like the rivalry and the emotion, and things start to go a little haywire for the team that's better or whatever. And that, like, obviously already thought he was really good, but a spectacular performance from him just to provide the baseline for Carolina to do what it did in the second half.
Yeah, you said it. I mean, the best ability is availability. He played 40 minutes in this game, and they needed every minute of Caleb Wilson. And it did feel like Duke, they didn't get a rebound until like the under 12 timeout. North Carolina did not get an actual rebound. There was one rebound that was granted a team rebound because it went out of bounds, but they did not actually grab a rebound. That's how dominant Duke was with the physicality of their front court with Malik Brown, Cam Boozer, Patrick Gungba, right? I mean, those three guys were terrorizing North Carolina. Vasar especially was just like completely overwhelmed in the first half, the entire first half. I mean, but the first 10 minutes for sure, he just looked like a deer in the headlights. And then Caleb Wilson, it just felt like him clicking into gear, hitting that little double pump fadeaway that you mentioned. It was just kind of like, all right, I'm going to have to do something special to make sure these guys know that we can do something special. Seth Trimble as well was in there, at least getting to the basket, at least giving some signs of like, we can penetrate this team and like make something happen. Otherwise, I felt like they couldn't even make a pass, couldn't even get anything going on offense. It just felt very stagnant, very disconnected. And then, like you said, the second half comes in, Vasar plays with a little bit more poise, a little bit more like, just kind of the version of, him that we've seen throughout the entire season. And then Caleb Wilson doesn't have to be Superman. And then all of a sudden, I mean, for me, you said it, it's like Wilson was so incredible. Boozer kind of matched Wilson. It was this beautiful kind of cross match going on where they were getting matched up on each other. You could see they were both taking it personally every time. It was like if Caleb saw Cam Boozer on him, he reacted a certain way. If Boozer saw Caleb, he reacted a certain way, right? It was like a beautiful, like, man, these are two freshmen, but they're playing very high level basketball. Two guys that obviously know each other.
Two guys who want to go at each other.
Yes.
That's what was beautiful about it. It's
respectfully just like, too. Like, you know what I mean? It's not like this weird, like hatred, like it's like more of like it's like a respectful, let's have this dance, you know what I mean? Like I want you to play your best, I want to play my best, and we're gonna see what happens here and see where the chips may fall. So it was like this beautiful matchup, and like what the rivalry, it's nice to see like two kids who are that young. And when I met them at the McDonald's All-American game, I had both of them in an interview with each other, and with Caden as well, the other Boozer twin, and they were talking about Carolina Duke and everything, and they were well. I mean, I feel like we always talk about Cam, but Caden had a good game. By the way, he had some moments.
He did, yeah.
Hit a big.
He's
three.
a good player.
Yeah, he's a good player, right? It just feels like Cam gets all the talk, but with all three of them sitting there, it was like so funny because they were teammates. But then when like Carolina Duke came up, it just kind of like some things you feel like kind of get out of fad, or like you worry about the next generation getting it or whatever. But when I saw them kind of interact with each other, I'm like, we're going to be all right here. And then in that game, it was like, we're going to be good here. It's just, it was great to see. And then to me, the freshman that became the star in the last 6 minutes, Derek Dixon, who has taken over the past 6 games as the point guard of this team, really was not having a good night at all, and just clicked into a different gear. And him with his size, him with his vision, passing the basketball, hit a huge shot just like he did against Kentucky. 2 big threes late in this game. Got the assist of Vasar, who hit a big 3. And like you said, like they hung around until the last 5 minutes, where it was like, oh, you're only down 7 points and you've played pretty poorly for the most part. This game is there for the taking, and they hit big shots down the stretch. And then that pass from Dixon, he could have made the pass to Wilson for a dunk, but he makes the pass to the corner. Seth Trimble's wide open, hits the shot. It was beautiful. The arc of that shot, taking all the clock out, basically, except for 0.4 of a second. It was like this artistic, perfect thing. And Carolina has not had a buzzer beater in the matchup, right? Because the buzzer beaters, the Marvin Williams shot is on CBS. The Caleb Love shot is on CBS. So every time they do the montage for ESPN, it's like Austin Rivers shot. I was at that game. Terrible. Capel,
I was at that game too.
Like these are moments that are all kind of been in the Duke lane. Shout out to Duke for hitting those big shots. But this was the first buzzer beater that North Carolina has had in the montage, and I'm happy that they hit it. Duke probably deserved to win this game just based on how the game was played. But that's why this rivalry is so fun. It's like there's been so many Carolina games where it's like they are going to win this game. They've dominated this game. How did Duke win? And like this kind of felt like an inverse of that. And it was awesome. And I had so many people that I hadn't heard from, in some time. Duke side, Carolina side, just being like, man, that was fun. Like, obviously the Duke side a little bit more upset, as John Shire's talking about people getting hit in the face. Turns out maybe didn't happen. But, it was great for the rivalry, and it was great for college basketball. And to me, that was my Super Bowl, Eamon. You know, that was my Super Bowl weekend. That was the game I really cared about. So a lot of fun.
100%. Yeah, and look, I mean, the thing about Wilson's performance that, like, obviously it was good on the merits, but like in those games, Carolina Duke, it just needs to stay close because you don't know what's going to happen, because those games, that rivalry, every single year there's a weird alchemy that happens, in whichever direction it goes. And often I feel like it goes, and maybe this is like just anecdotal over the last few years or whatever, but often I feel like it goes in the like road team's direction, or like the team that you don't expect to win's direction, or whatever. It just, you kind of throw everything out and you get to the last, like you said, 5 minutes, and you let the things fall where they may. And if you're the team that's not as talented, and I think any Carolina fan would admit they're not as talented as Duke and not as good of a team as Duke this year, you just want in that game to get it down to where you are going on a possession to possession basis, or you're within 5-6 points and you can hit a three and then cut it. You know, like you just want to be up to bat late in the game, because weird, fun, crazy stuff is going to happen, because it just, like, for whatever reason, that game consistently produces that stuff every single year. And that was the thing about Wilson's performance. Rewatching the game was just like, you need someone to give you the platform when Duke looks like they're going to run you out of the gym, and everyone in the Dean Dome is going to start getting anxious and mad, to just kind of keep you ticking over a little bit. And that was that was really the most impressive thing, you know. And then obviously the plays happen, and again, it's kind of like the KU Arizona win. Like, I don't want to take away from what happened down the stretch and the guys that actually had to make the plays, and Trimble making that shot, but I feel like all that stuff needs someone to keep it viable throughout the game, right? And that was Wilson for me. Like, I already thought he was a spectacular player, but that's a legendary entry into the Duke UNC canon as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, it's hard not to root for him. I mean, he's just like a throwback in that sense. And he and Cam Boozer, I just feel like, are such great representations of like what you want in college, not just college basketball players, but like people in general. And the fact that like both those guys had so much respect for each other after the fact, like hearing their post game comments about each other, it's like, I don't know, it gives you like hope for the future. You know, you get a little sadistic and a little cynical in life, you know. And like those kids, even last year, like my producer Kyle, and he was with me, he was like, "You were so moved by that." I was like, "Yeah, it's just like gives me hope that like they're talking about like, you know, playing cards with each other on road trips. Like Cam Boozer's talking about playing golf and all this stuff. I'm just like, these guys are just like cool kids. They get the rivalry. They know how to like keep it within the realm of the game, but then also like, you know, have respect for each other's games. It's like, it's nice to see. So you love to see it.
Yeah, it was cool. Great game. Looking forward to the return. And again, like I said, like if you're predicting a Duke UNC game, like the craziest stuff happens in that rivalry. The craziest thing that could happen in that rivalry this year would be UNC winning at Cameron Indoor. But much crazier things have happened in that rivalry.
I mean, 2024 was the same deal, where it was like going into Cameron, everyone's like, well, Carolina won at home, they'll lose in Cameron, all will be righted, you know. And then Cormac Ryan has one of the most absurd shooting performances,
Ryan, of all people.
Right. Yeah. It's like, okay,
it happens all the time. Yeah, it happens all the time. I mean, Coach K's last game at Cameron.
Oh yeah,
you know,
Caleb Love
stuff happens.
Armando Bacot,
bad memories for Duke fans.
No, I mean, I feel like Duke fan. I actually am like really anti this whole thing, and like when it happened in 2022, I was like, I joked around about it, you know, and I'm like, okay, the rivalry's dead, but that was like a 3-month run of jokes, and then I still see people like try to like make that a thing, and it's like, no, you know, it's like it's perfectly fine. Like we respectfully hate each other. We would rather, you know, keep that as it is. We don't need all the outside. You know what I mean? It just feels like a lot of times, like a lot of people try to like get their fingers in the middle of it. And it's like, no, there's the perfect amount of hate here. Like John Shire after the game being like, I had guys get hit in the face. It's like, that was the most Coach K press conference ever. And you're like, Perfect. Like we're back, baby.
I did see
I did a fist pump as I heard it. I was like, we're back. Like this is what we need.
Yeah. I did see a prosecutor at
that was great.
Is it Orange County, Chapel Hill?
Yeah, that's the county.
Sent out today if anyone has evidence of that happening.
Send the video.
Press charges.
He did the Anthony Edwards. Send the video, and then he said he'll prosecute and do what he needs to do. And then Shire said everybody's fine now. And then I had Wake Forest people reaching out to me saying it was like Filipowski when Filipowski was apparently hurt, and then obviously was dunking in the layup line the next game. Look, it's just like Duke loses.
This
sometimes.
Is what it's all about.
Yeah, sometimes they lose. Sometimes they're sore losers. It's entertainment. It's funny. They're going to be okay. And poor Pittsburgh, what they're going to do to Pittsburgh is not going to be fun tonight. So no. I feel for Pittsburgh. Pour one out for them.
No, yeah. They might win by 40. Actually somehow beat them so bad that they find a way to pay Jeff Capel's buyout.
Yeah, it might be the Louisville State game, but this time
it might actually be a good thing for Pittsburgh because they can get out from under Capel's buyout.
Which probably a good thing for Duke, by the way. Like that team needed to get like a little kick in the ass. Like it was a little too easy. They were on cruise control. Now I feel like they're locked in.
Yeah, look again, like Arizona at KU. There's no reason to think anything negatively about Duke coming out of that game. That is one of the 3, 4, 5, I guess 6. I would say Michigan, Arizona, Duke, Illinois, Houston, Iowa State are kind of my 6 national title contenders.
Yeah.
And Iowa State is like the sneaky one in that list, and we can elaborate on that as we get closer to.
I would have had Gonzaga in that list, by the way, until that performance over the weekend. Now, I know they were missing a couple guys, but I don't know what to do with the Zags. I've been defending them. I've been defending them, but I have to let it go now. I think I'm done.
They're weirdly limited in terms of like perimeter shooting this year. They're like all in on like athletic wings, which is a change for them, but they don't score efficiently, particularly from 3. So
just the Huff and EK kind of like guaranteed bucket. You know what I mean? Like they have that going for them, which is like. In the tournament, I like when I can get a guaranteed bucket, and like where it's at least I know I'm gonna get a good shot, easy shot. So that's what I always like about Gonzaga. But yeah, I'm a little bit. It's
another reason to like Florida too.
Yeah,
like
of course.
They have an underlying floor of just like constant easy putbacks, even if they shoot 5 for 30 from 3. They'll they can butcher you as they did to Texas A&M over the weekend. Okay, really quickly, St. John's played again tonight. On Friday night, I was like, just when I thought I was out on St. John's, I have kind of been out on them all year, as we've discussed. They pull me back in. I finally see the vision. I get it. And then they come back out, 3 nights later and very nearly get upset at home. Just kind of the whole St. John's experience at their peak. And it's going to be really interesting to see as we go down the stretch and get into the Big East tournament and the NCAA tournament. At their peak, the way they played against UConn with like a torch up their rear ends of just like everybody's playing extremely hard, super physical, locked in. Like this is a really, really high level physical team. Versus what they did on Monday night, which was kind of cruise, like you said, with Duke, cruise controlled, like, oh yeah, we got these guys, we'll figure it out. And they did eventually, but it took an overtime. They could have easily lost that game. And that's kind of the duality of St. John's for me. I'm not sure where you're at with them.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. The UConn game on Friday, I know we talked about Carolina Duke, like St. John's UConn. That was an incredible game on Friday. I know the weekend under review guys talked about that and wanted to give them their due there, but that was a great game. It's an awesome rivalry. Like you obviously can tell how much Hurley and Pitino just detest each other, and I loved Hurley talking about like he's not in the college coaching fraternity, right? He's like they haven't initiated me. I'm a high school guy. My dad's a high school coach. Like I just love almost like this.
Guy's won 2 titles, by the way.
It's just like
come on, man.
The created underdog conversation by Dan Hurley, like I salute you. Like it's It's like Michael Jordan coming up with like people that have crossed him, and it's like I never did that, like Danny Ainge is like that never happened, but it's like okay, he's created that in his head, I guess.
Steve Kerr just getting hit in the face at practice, like what did I do to you?
That's Dan Hurley. But yeah, so that was like a great game, epic game. Love that matchup. Thought Ian Jackson was a nice spark in that game. Dylan Darling was incredible, and I do feel like those are the two guys for this team that really swing it in the right direction. It's like if they play good and they're locked in, things go great. When they're kind of out of it, especially Ian Jackson, I'm a little bit concerned about this group. Dylan Mitchell also in that group as well. But Zuby is a stabilizing force, and Zuby played good again tonight, had 6 points in overtime, 25 points overall. So it's nice to have an actual All-American on this team, and Bryce Hopkins as well in that mix. But yeah, I mean, I'm with St. John's. I don't think they're a top 5 team. I thought they were obviously overrated. I was with you. But I do feel like they're trending in the right direction. They could definitely win the Big East tournament again if it breaks their way. Wouldn't be shocked by that. I don't know about national championship type team, but I'm happy to have Pitino in the mix. I'm a sucker for it. It's too good. It's good TV.
I know. You love you some Rick Pitino.
I know.
Always have, always will.
The white suit, he got me. You know what I mean? ACC Rick Pitino was a fun thing to watch in college. You couldn't help yourself. Just
for sure.
Too good. All white.
I mean, he's also like tactically one of, if not the best college basketball coaches of all time. He's so good, and he's in his dotage now, and so you don't maybe get the raw uncut stuff that you got like peak Louisville,
a little bit more muted.
He was stomping the floor, and then all of a sudden 5 guys were sprinting at the ball and like pressing, and it's like
with his hands behind his back, like cursing,
like
the other
standing
team.
there, like observing. 100%. He did have a funny moment in the UConn game. I think it was the second half where Ian Jackson had took a bad shot and then had a turnover where he kind of tried to flip the ball with his left hand to like a guy 2 feet away from him at the top of the key. It might've been Zuby. It was kind of like he was trying to run like a touch pass kind of give and go thing or whatever. And there was almost an immediate timeout. It goes to Pitino in the huddle, and Fox has him mic'd up or whatever. And he's like, calm down when you're out there, take a deep breath. Don't panic like Ian just did. And then for the next 10 minutes, Ian Jackson was on the bench.
Mm-hmm.
I think he buried him in a casket under the bench. Like he didn't see the floor the rest of
the game. He has
a
very short leash with Ian Jackson. I think he played 11 minutes against Xavier tonight. It's like, he put him in a corridor 1,000 miles from the bench after that. And it was funny to see the timeout where he was just like, I'm going to call you out, and then you're not going to play a single other minute. It's kind of the up and down of Ian Jackson. Because when he's good, he's useful. And he was, particularly in the first half against UConn, he was like a super useful player to have. And like his skill set. Game. Yeah.
He's not a point guard, and he never has been, but he can get downhill and score, and he can hit threes. And this St. John's team kind of needs that. But he got buried deep under the bench, but they survived Monday night, and they big win. They kind of are what they are, but I am interested to see what they look like Big East tournament. And look, they've won
10 straight, right?
Now 10 straight. Like there's every chance, with the exception of the road trip to UConn February 25th, that they will win every other game. And
watch out for that Providence game on Saturday. That
would be fun.
That just feels like they aren't going to take it as seriously as Providence is. You know what I mean? I know Providence already beat them once, but I just at Providence
that might be the one redeeming factor, actually. If they'd hammered Providence at home, but the fact that they lost to Providence at home, Patino's going to be on them for
you would think.
You'd think, but. Look, man, I mean, they're also capable of losing to Marquette next week, too.
That's true.
Again, we're talking about a team that's won 10 straight, that lost by 1 to Iowa State, which I think if they had won that game in November, we'd be talking about this team in slightly different terms. But again, like they do have a slight like bozo gene in them that I just can't kind of shake, and it kind of comes back to the roster construction. And they're just, Darling has been excellent and he was great against UConn, but there's just a little je ne sais quoi that you maybe want to see. Okay, real quick, we got a rapid fire the last few topics here. Where are you on Jeremy Fears? Besides him obviously being an amazing basketball player, I feel like he's getting his unbelievably good basketball season is getting overshadowed by the fact that people think that he's a very dirty player, and there's videotape evidence that he, whatever you make of the Illinois thing, they had a great win over Illinois on Saturday. Whatever you make of that specific incident, his reputation now precedes him in the way that like I haven't seen since like Grayson Allen.
Yeah, it's given like little Draymond, if we made like a TV series, it would be like Jeremy Fears is little Draymond, and he just does like they're like borderline winning plays, but they're also borderline dirty plays, you know what I mean? And sometimes he definitely crosses the line when we're talking about that borderline. And against Michigan, I think he did it. Illinois, it just feels like he can't help himself, and I do feel like once you get away with it, it's kind of it's like being a klepto, It's like once he stole one thing and he did one little trip and it worked, he was like, oh, this is an easy way if someone's driving by me to make sure they don't get by me or whatever it is, and they can't catch it every time. And unfortunately, the cameras are everywhere, and I feel like they're catching it more than they should. I watched Jeremy Fears play some incredible, point guard play against North Carolina, and throughout the season, I've seen him play some impressive games. I've also seen him have some duds like he did against Duke, right? So I've seen the best of Jeremy Fears. I've seen the worst of Jeremy Fears. It does feel like it's veering into Grayson Allen territory. I feel like it's more known in the Big Ten world than it is nationally. I do fear... Yeah. And no pun intended, when he does get to the NCAA tournament in one of these rounds, whether it's, second round in a close game, Sweet 16 trying to get over the hump, Elite 8 trying to get to the final, it does feel like he might fall back into these ways and do something bad. And I feel like that's when people are going to be like, this guy, I'm done with him. You know what I mean? Yeah. That's my real big fear with Jeremy.
If you do that on a national stage, like in the NCAA tournament, people are not going to...
They'll remember it forever.
Spare you the comments. But again, it's sad because I feel like this is the center, like this is the locus of conversation about him. They just beat Illinois at home. He had 26 points, 15 assists, and was the best defensive player on the floor. And this Michigan State team, like coming into the season, you looked at them and you're like, how is this? Like they'll rebound, they'll defend, they'll do the Tom Izzo stuff as their sort of, underlying level, but how are they going to score the basketball? And it turns out out of nowhere, this guy is like the best point guard in the country. He's having a better season than Braden Smith.
Right.
Easily at this point, like against Illinois and all their size and all their talent, he not only checked Wagler and had helped him have his worst game of the season since November against Alabama and UConn. He had 26 and 15 and made every open shot that Michigan State got and made every play down the stretch, and almost not single-handedly, because like Jackson Kohler had to make shots and, Colin Carr had to go jump really high and dunk the ball. But like he made every play that matters, and he's an insanely good player. And it's, like I want to just like grab him by the shoulders and just be like, dude, just don't trip people. You're an incredible basketball player. You don't even need to.
Yeah.
You can guard anyway. Like you'll get to the spot. You don't need,
And they don't work without him. Like Kohler doesn't work. Cam Ward doesn't work. Like, Colin Carr doesn't, like they all need him to basically set up everything around them. You know what I mean? Like he is really everything for them.
Yeah, I was talking to Evan Miyakawa about this on his podcast, and we were talking about like he has a stat obviously for this after I was doing like the sort of vibesy most valuable player or whatever, and he actually has a most indispensable player stat, and it's like, he tracks sort of their ratings relative to the rest of the teammates around them or whatever, and he has Cam Boozer number 1 and Fears number 2 in the country. And I kind of made the argument to him, like, I would maybe put Fears over Cam Boozer. Like, I feel like Duke, if they didn't have Cam Boozer, obviously they wouldn't be as good of a team, but they would still be a top 5, top 10 team. I think if you took Fears off of Michigan State, they're like,
not good.
Bubble.
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
like what, again, they're rebounding. They're, working hard. They're defending.
He creates everything on offense, though. It's like it really is. All
ridiculous.
Yeah,
it's ridiculous. And he was not that good of an offensive player last year. And none of this was apparent. He's the best passer in the country by like a mile. His assist rate is astronomical. It's 53% assist rate, low turnover rate. Like, he's a phenomenal player. And it would be nice if the conversation around him was a little bit less about isolated instance. But you're right. The Draymond the Draymond comparison he's
little Draymond
is apt because
I think he's doing more offensively than Draymond. But like, how Draymond has a little proclivity to get in the mix a little bit too much, where it takes away from the greatness of what he does basketball wise sometimes. And I think that's fair. I did think that Brad Underwood saying there was nothing on the trip did help. I don't know how much it helps, but like, I did feel like that was a nice nod of Brad Underwood just being like, yes, that did happen, but at the same time, like, that's not why we lost this. You know what I mean? Like, I was like, that was nice of Underwood to say.
You know what that is? That's Brad Underwood doing I'm going to do Tom a solid here.
Mm-hmm.
As opposed to the Dusty May of like, I'm going to point out on tape all the times that Jeremy Fears was
right
being dirty to my players.
He's going to kiss the ring of the elder statesman as opposed to spitting on him. Yeah.
Or just like, me and Tom have a good relationship, and this is what you do in the coaching fraternity. Whereas Dusty is kind of just like, I don't care about that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't play that.
He's like, I'm going to the NBA at some point.
Yeah, and the thing from last week of just like Tom telling Dusty, like, or telling the reporters like, well, if Dusty has a problem, he can just call me. That's about as close as Tom Izzo will ever be to saying like, I hate this guy.
Yeah, fight me.
Like about another
like
coach.
meet me in the parking lot, and I will throw
like,
fisticuffs. Yeah,
I do not like you, and like being like, well, he can call me if he wants to, is like about as close as it gets to that level of anguish. Okay, we were going to talk about Indiana surviving Wisconsin, but that was a while ago now. They beat Oregon tonight. The Wisconsin finish looked way worse than it was when you actually went back and watched the tape. Like, it was actually a foul. Miami of Ohio, I thought they were going to lose this weekend. I'm not going to lie. They keep winning.
Yeah. Only team left. There was only one.
Only team left now after Arizona, still unbeaten. The streak continues. We'll have a bubble conversation on this podcast at some point about them if they continue winning. But
they just feel like a grade 12 seed, like. I see
they're fun.
When I close my eyes, like Miami of Ohio, 12 seed up against a 5 seed that's like in the Big 10 or the Big 12 that's kind of faltering a little bit, and they win that game and everyone's like, see, I told you Miami of Ohio was good. And then they get destroyed in the next round. But like, it was fun that they won a game. That just feels like their vibe.
I mean, they play great offense too.
They're fun to watch.
Like they're super enjoyable. And then the last thing I wanted to bring up that we need to mention, as a ostensibly national college basketball podcast, is the Luke Almodovar dunk for Southeast Missouri.
He's going viral.
It went viral, and it was nice to see. And I think it went viral because it's one of the best dunks I've ever seen in my life. Dude took off from basically the free throw line, and it would be nice if a guy like Luke Almodovar could parlay this into some sort of like invitation to the NCAA dunk contest at the Final Four, which I don't even know if they do anymore. They used to do that. Mm-hmm. It doesn't take place at the Final Four. It's like offsite somewhere. It's like the Reese's 3-point contest. Do they even do that anymore?
Yeah, they do. I think they do that. Yeah. I think Intersport still does it. I was the dunk contest judge like in 2019 once upon a time. And it was like Derrick Rose, Robert Covington. It was like the strangest. It was in Minnesota. It was like the strangest assortment of Timberwolves you've ever seen. And then like Titus and I, and then like some random girl. It was such a stupid group of people. And like I was
That's amazing.
I was trying to talk to Derrick Rose the whole time. And he's just like, I don't know why I'm here. I was like, I don't either.
I was contractually obligated. Yeah.
Give him 10.
Everyone's contractually obligated to be here. Anyway, Luke Almodovar.
Yes.
Great dunk, man. Good job. Fantastic.
Grandson of Indiana Mr. Basketball, by the way.
I'm sorry?
Yeah, he was the grandson. I looked this up because I was like, I got to figure out about this kid. He was the grandson of 1965 Mr. Basketball Billy Keller. That's his grandson.
In Indiana?
Indiana Mr. Basketball. Yeah.
Wow. He comes from royalty.
Yeah, I was going to say, you were going to appreciate that. So I wanted to get that for you.
That's fantastic. What a stat. I have another stat for you real quick. This is also from our guy, Matt Norlander. Mikel Brown tonight is the only freshman in the last 30 years with 45 plus points, 9 plus rebounds, and 3 plus steals in a game.
He was incredible.
Not bad. And it also helps that NC State literally just did not show up to the basketball game at all. But
Jay Williams called Quadir Copeland the best point guard in the ACC before the game, by the way. I was like, I would love to hear if Mikel Brown like heard that and was like, I have to destroy him. Also, he doesn't play point guard, so that's also an interesting fact. But yeah, that was
not a point guard, and also if he was incorrect. Tate's laughing because you can see me on the camera doing a deep temple rub sigh right now. Okay, all right. Anyway,
it was.
I think that's
trying
our
to give
show.
A compliment. You know, he meant well.
It's a nice thought. It's nice to be positive, but holy cow.
He also did a Tar Heels chant before the Carolina Duke game, and even I'm like, thanks, Jay, but no thanks. You know what I mean? Like that. That's
and
not
you're.
necessary.
I feel like you're one of the more. You know, to be fair, you're one of the more like acquiescent Carolina Duke people. Like you're not like a hardcore like F them, whatever.
I don't spell Duke
you're pretty
Dook. You know what I mean? Like that
you're a peacemaker.
Yeah.
You're relatively gentle about it. Whatever.
I also have family that went there, you know what I mean? Like there's enough respect of like, hey, you know, there's smart kids there, smart kids here. You know what I mean? Like but we can do
chanting. I saw a lot of people get mad about that too, which a lot of Duke fans.
I mean, right? If I'm a Duke fan, I'm rightfully upset. Like that's egregious, you know? Like that's insane. Like even Billis, who's Mr. Objective, is like, I would never do that. I'm like, yes, that's insane.
I think the hunt for content has
he's lost. He's in the hot take zone. Yeah,
many people have had their brains poisoned by the desire to generate content. Yeah. Hopefully that will never be us.
I hope not. I'm knocking on wood.
As we say as we wrap up our podcast. All right. Anyway, that's going to do it for us. We'll see you next week after a string of basketball games that will be very, very good. And you know, the one that comes to mind for me, and this is random, is Santa Clara has a very big game coming up this weekend. Our guy Herb Zendek needs it badly. Yeah, for the NCAA tournament purposes. But there's many more.
Had a close one against Wazoo and my guy David Riley. That was a good game this weekend.
They did. Santa Clara is fun. Like, man, I kind of hope they get in the tournament just like for the Zendek redemption story. Like, imagine the first round or first 4 press conferences. They're going to be, you know, we'll have to send
How about this?
You know, a Raleigh reporter
6
out there.
Seed, Herb Zendek, 11 seed. Whew.
At this stage, I'm not sure. NC State 6 seed is sounding a little aggressive at the current pace, and we're looking more like an 8 or 9 at this point if things continue. If they're lucky, considering they just got beat by like 50.
Yeah, that wasn't good.
Anyway,
that was not good for the metrics. Yeah,
not good. The metrics aren't going to like that. All right, okay, we're wrapping. Thank you to Tate. Thank you to our producer, Corey Aldis. Thank you to Trilly and everybody at Basket and Review. That's our show for this week. We will see you next week. The college basketball season is in full force. The Super Bowl's over. We're here now.